I'm trying to live until I die. Come connect, you know it's a lewd state of mind. Yeah, yeah. Talking traveling, if you wanna fly. Fitness and finance, living a better life. Keep it raw, no filter. Living with no limit. Thank you for tuning in. Come on, let's get it.
G'day mate, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Yourself?
Very good. Welcome to Lewd State of Mind and Lewd Studios.
Thanks for having me.
What do you reckon? What do you reckon?
I reckon it's a great setup.
It's like a big man cave, isn't it?
You took the words right out of my mouth. Exactly what I was going to say. I'll have to get you to help with my man cave son.
Look, I'm here to consult on any project for sure, as long as there's bears involved.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to introduce yourselves to our listeners in our...
Yeah, sure. My name's Travis Boyle. I'm an avid runner. I like to run in both road races and trail running, and like to keep it a bit of variety when I run. I don't typically just target one particular event. I like to do lots of different events. Besides that, I am a father of two. I've got a 9-year-old boy and a 11-year-old girl, and a wife. And most of my week these days revolves around taking them to and from soccer. So it's soccer season at the moment. So probably about 6 out of the 7 days are consumed with taking the kids to soccer or watching them play. So that keeps me busy as well. And besides that, I work in IT for a large retailer, which keeps me busy during the day. So that's me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was that's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
2 kids, as you say, they are.
Yeah.
They're a handful, especially with sport. Soccer, no AFL?
It's interesting because I played AFL when I was young. And yeah, they've both just adopted soccer. I just got into it, I think, during COVID. They were both impacted by COVID and lockdowns and whatnot. So I think...
Oh, what kid wasn't though, eh?
Yeah. So I think I took my... there was a local soccer ground within my 5Ks, so we went there a few times, and I had a soccer ball in with my young boy. I sort of let him win a few games of soccer, and I think he fell in love with it that way.
That's brilliant though, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing, is like they'll find their own, tribe and their own, way of life and their own interests, and you can push them in a certain way, and sometimes they'll go completely the opposite. But situation, as you say, over COVID, it's a cause and effect type scenario where, but that's good. It's the international, it's the national game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, we've got some of our sponsors' product here. You're drinking some of that as well. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you that because that's yours to try. So Buckfast, if you haven't heard of it, it's a tonic wine. It's 15% alcohol, and it's got more caffeine than Red Bull. So our sponsors at Chapel Street Cellars, cheers to them. So if you're trying it for the first time, bottom up.
It's good.
You like that?
Yeah.
It's unique, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's very good. It's very
easy to drink as well.
Yeah. Just on ice, in the morning, in the evening. We all like day drinking around here, so it doesn't matter when you start.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why you're here is that we've got a common friend, Alan. How do you know Alan?
So he's a member of the Langwarrin Running Club that I'm also a member of. It's a bit of a social running club. Everyone gets together generally on a Saturday morning, does, between 5 to 12 kilometres at no great pace or anything like that. And then afterwards, I think it's more of a social gathering, so everyone just goes and has a coffee afterwards, and
a coffee,
a bit of
really?
a chin wag. Well, it is probably about 8 a.m. in the morning. Might be a bit early for a drink, but that's how we got to know each other. My wife was also a member of the club first, so she got into running, and then I sort of followed after her.
So your wife is a runner?
Yes, she still runs today. Yeah.
And she got you into running?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of. Have you always run?
Not really. I played AFL when I was younger, and tennis, and a little bit of cricket earlier. But then over the years, I kept going with tennis, and then in my 20s, probably I started to get a few injuries with my shoulder from tennis. So when I was playing tennis, my serve was my weapon, and it quickly turned into my weakness. Where the next day I couldn't lift my arm rarely high at all.
Yeah. Sounds like a rotor cuff issue.
Yeah, it was, and I went and had it looked at, but was never able to sort of get it resolved. So then I stopped for a while, and then my wife was into running, and I'm like, oh, my wife's running. Yeah, that should be pretty easy to do a marathon or something like that. And
how old were you? How old were you when that happened? When you sort of said, "Look, I've got to look at something different."
Probably.
What age were you?
Probably about 36 is when I first decided I was going to do.
So that's pretty late, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's about when I started running.
Yeah.
It is pretty late in life.
Yeah.
But it seems like a lot of people get into running in that period of their life because, as you say, they've had injuries with other sports or they're unable to do certain things.
Yeah.
You can always strap on a pair of runners and jump out the door and do a 10, 12, whatever, how many Ks you want to do. And it's good for your mental health too, isn't it?
It is. It's fantastic for the mental health. A lot of people would start running, obviously, to probably try to lose weight at the start. But what people don't realise is once you really get hooked into running, you run because of the mindfulness, the clearing of the mind. It's like meditation for me. So when I can't run, I really miss it because it really clears my head, and it's just such a natural high from running.
Have you ever thought about not being able to run?
I've had injuries where it sort of. I thought to myself, well, maybe this could be it for running. So, yeah, it's a bit scary when that happens. And you can substitute it with other things, but it's never the same. Like, you can cycle or you can swim. No,
it's not.
But for me, as a runner, like, there's nothing that can replace it. So I did have an injury once with my neck that really was bad for a while. About 100 days I couldn't run. And
wow.
It was a pinched nerve in the, I think, the C5 or C6. Had to get a nerve root injection to sort of fix it, and it took a couple of times to find the right spot to inject, but eventually it got resolved, and then I was sort of back to the start again. But everyone loves a comeback, so it's like once you miss or once you can't run, you'll be like, I don't care how fast I run as long as I'm running. I don't care if I can, like, let's say I'm running 3-minute 30 pace in a marathon or something like that. I'd be just happy if someone said, you won't be able to run again, or you can run at this particular pace, 7-minute pace or something. I'll just be happy to be out there running. So
for anybody listening, 3-minute 30 is quick.
Yeah, it's
so what's at 3:30? What's a marathon?
You're just under a 2.5 hour marathon at that pace.
That's smoking.
Yeah,
that's quick.
Yeah.
What's your quickest marathon?
So I did Chicago 2:29:07 just last year, and I've done a couple of sub 2:30 marathons, and I'm always trying to get better as I run. So my journey started off, my first marathon back probably about 8 years ago, was about 3 hours and 48 minutes. So over the years I've just set and chipped away at it, set small goals all the time. And so I'll go to do a marathon, I might have a couple of goals during the race. I might say, well, my A goal is to run under 3 hours and 30 minutes, for example. My second marathon, one of my goals was not to walk any of the marathon, was to run the whole way. Because my first marathon, I actually had to stop and walk a bit in the last 10 kilometres. And I'm like, because my first marathon was supposed to be my first and last marathon. And then I felt like I
unfinished business.
Exactly. So...
Mate, you're speaking to the converted, because I was exactly the same.
Yeah.
I did my first and only marathon was Melbourne 2012, and all I wanted to do was break the 4 hour mark. That's all I wanted to do, and I got bad cramps at the 36K mark, and was just an absolute pain.
Yeah.
But I finished, and because there was no way I wasn't going to finish, and then I tried to come back and do it again.
Yeah.
And then had a hip replacement, and that was pretty much the writing on the wall for me. But everything you're telling me is just resonates with me, because once you've been a runner, once you've experienced what we've experienced. Because I was looking at some stats today, it's quite amazing. So there's about 1.1 million participants in marathons each year. And that's only 0.01% of the world's population. So you're pretty fucking special to enter and finish a marathon.
Yeah, it's a great achievement no matter who you are, no matter what time you finish. Just making it to the start line is an achievement in its own right. Sometimes, you know, the amount of training and effort people go to get to the start line, and just to finish it is like I love going to a marathon and finishing, and then watching everyone else finish. And sometimes you can get a bit emotional at the MCG, seeing people finish the Melbourne Marathon, and people are getting carried, and people are collapsing almost when they see the finish line, like their body's just shutting down. They've just been holding on to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
It's just pretty inspirational what you see at the end of a marathon. It's unlike any other event you'll see.
And especially Melbourne Marathon, because as you say, it finishes at the MCG.
Yeah.
And that is so special. As soon as you run through that entrance onto the hallowed ground, it's just amazing. And as I said, 2012 I did it. They first did the MCG finish was 2007 was when they first started doing that. And we actually had a good friend of ours that did the last year's marathon, and I could not believe the amount of supporters in the stands. Now, but from 2012 to then, I reckon it's quadrupled in size. Just the amount of people there.
Yeah.
I don't remember there being that many people when I finished.
Yeah.
It was just insane. And as you say, you know, groups of people, you know, cheering and egging everybody on, and as you say, people trying to get their times, you know, and sprinting to the finish, and some people, as you say, collapsing, and just the emotion of it. And I remember being really emotional when I finished mine. It was just like, everything just came flooding out. It was just so intense, you know. It was an amazing experience.
It's actually getting more and more popular. I think it's sold out in days this time. So it's already sold out. It's been sold out for a long time. Normally you could get an entry last minute.
This is Melbourne you're talking about?
Yeah.
So Melbourne is the largest marathon in Australia, is that correct?
I believe so, yes. Yeah.
So the figures I had were around about 8,000 marathon runners.
Yeah.
And just some stats. So in 2013 there was 8,066, and 6,800 of those finished.
Yeah.
So that means unfortunately 1,200 didn't finish, which is unfortunate, as you say, because you put all that effort and all that training into it. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Sorry, I just need to. I think Sydney now. So Sydney's going to be a major.
That's what I was going to just say to you. I just heard that. So Sydney is now bigger than Melbourne. Is that correct, or is it's just in line for? So explain to us about the majors.
So there are 6 major marathons at the moment. So you've got the most well-known one is probably Boston. You've got New York. You've got Chicago. You've got London. You've got Berlin, and then you've got Tokyo. So there's 6 at the moment, and there's a lot of people chasing those majors and traveling all over the world to finish each of those marathons. And they're getting, just like every other marathon at the moment, they're getting harder and harder to enter because more and more people are applying to enter those events. And the entry requirements for each of those events is different and unique. Sydney is a candidate to become the 7th major.
Yeah, they're going to make that decision in 2025 from what I understand.
So they've passed the first mark. So I think they're observing the marathon for 2 years. So they're looking good at the moment. They're also, another indication that they're likely to become the 7th major is that they're hosting the World Age Group Championships. So for runners 40 and above, they have a special World Age Group Championships. And generally, it's fairly new. It's only been like 3 or 4 years old, for example. And it's been rotated between the different majors. And this is the first time they've hosted it outside of one of those 6 majors. So Sydney's hosting it this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and when's that later?
It's within the actual Sydney Marathon itself.
Yeah, but what month are we talking about this year?
September, I believe. Yeah.
Yep.
So I raced that World Age Group Championships in Chicago. So it was like a race within a race.
Did you have to qualify for that?
Yeah, you had to run a particular time, and each age group would have their own qualification time. So I was in the 40 to 44 category. So each group would have times based off the age category, so that the younger you are, probably the harder it is, the time that you've got to get.
Yep.
But geez, there's some great runners around the world.
And
there's 45 to 50-year-olds running sub 225, there's...
Well, I've got a shout out to my brother. I don't know if I explained to you, but my brother Andy up in Brisbane, he's done the 6 majors. That's been his goal to do that. And what is he, 53, 54? And I think just recently he got his a win in his age group in the Tassie marathon. So, hats off to him, mate.
It's such a huge achievement.
Oh, he's so dedicated. He, it's a bit of a selfish sport, as you know, but I mean, it's so rewarding as well. I mean, as you say, you've got to balance your family, your training, manage injuries, and well, you're injured at the moment currently, aren't you?
Yeah. So it's like when I say it's an achievement, when you book to do those major events, you normally need to book it a year in advance. So it's very hard to, if you have an injury or something like that, you either race it or you don't race it, and it's a costly exercise if you don't race it, because then you've probably got to go back again in the future. And then there's no guarantees that you'll qualify in a year's time or you'll get an entry in the following year. So,
well, a lot of those, like the New York, you've got to go in a lottery. So explain to me the ways to get into these 6 majors. Now, they've got, correct me if I'm wrong, they've got a lottery system where you apply and they just pull your name of a hat.
Yeah.
And you can get in by way of sponsorship or donation, so you raise money for certain donations. So say for instance, New York might be you got to raise $5,000 and you'll get a race entry. Is that correct?
Something like that. Yeah.
And what's the other way?
So there might be different pathways. So each marathon's unique. So I think New York have got a New York Road Runners program. It's almost like they slice the pie up, and there's about 5 or 6 different ways to get in. There's travel packages, so there's special travel companies. So you pay $4,000 or $5,000, and you'll get an entry plus accommodation.
Yep.
So there's all various ways, and it all depends. For New York, I got in as a time qualifier. So that sub 2:30 marathon I did in Chicago enabled me to apply for a time qualifier entry, but it was a little bit like. They only took the top 19%, so there was no guarantees. If you run under this time, they'd only take the top 19% that ran under that time. So if lots of fast people applied, then that obviously impacts who gets in and who doesn't. But they're becoming more and more popular, like the London Marathon this year for the lottery had record numbers. New York would have record numbers. And to get in by the lottery is very difficult now. You're probably talking 3-4% chance, if that.
Yeah.
London, I think you probably got more chance of winning the Powerball.
Geez, Powerball was 150 million last night, and that went off to one person in Adelaide. And apparently they don't even know they've won. So, somebody's going to have a good night tonight when
I think so. Yeah. What would you do?
Oh, geez, I've got a long list of stuff I'd spend that money on. It'd be all pretty selfish, I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
So, out of the top 6. Actually, no, I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm going to back up because we glassed over Alan. So, Alan, thank you very much for the introduction. He's a lovely guy. I obviously go to the same gym he does. He's actually injured as well too at the moment. You know, he's just had a back operation. So, if you're listening, Alan, get well, you old fart. We want to see you back at the gym because you're a funny bastard.
Yeah.
So, do you know when the journey started? Can you pinpoint a time where you strapped on some runners and said, "This is what I'm doing"? Is that how it went, or was it just you thought, "I need something different. I'm just going to give this a go because my wife does it"?
Yeah, I think it's pretty. It's hard for me to. It's almost 8 years ago, but I did remember just trying to run. I think I was doing like 25-kilometer long runs at some point, and I thought, I had done those long runs, but I wasn't really prepared for a marathon, and I was probably a little bit too eager to do the marathon. I probably underestimated it a bit as well.
Did you do a half first, or did you just go straight for the jugular?
Yeah. And I was doing all right, but then probably around the 25-30K mark, I probably started to slow down. Had pacers overtake me, so you sort of know. That you were...
Just to explain those paces.
Yeah.
So a pacer is a runner in an event that runs to a certain pace so that you know how you're tracking.
Yeah.
So if you want to finish in 3 hours 30, there'd be a guy with a flag.
Yeah. 3
hours 30, he's setting the pace. I've got to take my hats off to those guys because, I mean, they've got to prepare, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a difficult job to do, and for new runners, it's fantastic because it's sort of one less thing you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Because it can be a little bit. There's so many things you need to think about that if you're just if I just stay with this person, then I'm going to run my goal time. So, and it would be, as a pacer, it would be a very rewarding job to do.
Oh, hell yeah. And especially if you've got a good group around you that you've obviously had conversations with throughout that journey.
Yeah.
Great experience. As I said, I take my hat off to them. It's fantastic.
It's on my to-do list. It's one of the next things I want to do. So,
good on you.
I was supposed to do it on the weekend at the Great Ocean Marathon, but because of the fractured sacrum I had just before Tokyo, I haven't been able to run since then. So I'm hoping that at Melbourne Marathon, I've been selected as a pacer there as well. So I'll be doing that role at Melbourne Marathon. So it'll be great to help other people reach their goals and encourage them and support them on the way.
What pace are we looking at?
250.
Wow.
So it's not a cruisy pace. It's, I think, their quickest pacer that they have. I don't think they have a 240 or a 230 pacer. So 250, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 310, 320.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, good on you. I hope you get there. And as you say, because you're currently injured.
Yeah.
Sacrum. Now that's the bottom of your spine, isn't it? So if you fall on your ass as a snowboarder, I know all about that.
Yeah.
How'd you do it? Do you know? Do you remember?
So I was in Kyoto and it was really cold and freezing. And
so this is for the Japanese
the Tokyo Marathon.
For the Tokyo.
Yeah, just in March. So I had an awesome lead in, and this is why it's so hard doing a marathon, because you can do everything right.
Yep.
And still you might have issues. So I had a really good lead up in the training program. I'd probably trained better than I ever have before. And on the Tuesday before the marathon, it was one of my final speed sessions. And Kyoto, there wasn't many ovals or parks or areas to do a speed session. You almost need like a football oval or something like that. So I found an oval-ish thing. I don't even know if it was an oval. It was like a park or an open area, but it was very bumpy. So I was running circles around there and the grass was very uneven. I don't know if that contributed to it or it could have just been a wear and tear. And as I was doing my session, I didn't feel anything. I felt okay. And then I did my warm down, and I think it was later that night or the next morning that I felt it. And I thought, and I didn't know what it was at the time. I've never had this type of issue before. I thought it might have been something with my glutes or my back. It was really hard to pinpoint where the pain was coming from. But I thought, because I was training big weeks, I was doing 200-kilometre weeks of training, and my body was recovering really well. I think the more I run, the quicker I recover. And I was doing double runs, and so I thought, it's Tuesday, by Sunday I'll be fine. And I loaded up on anti-inflams and things like that, and obviously that doesn't help if it's a bone type of issue. And then during the week I was just getting more and more concerned because it wasn't, the pain was still there. It wasn't getting any better. And then I was in that tricky position where if it was any other race, if it was a race at like Melbourne Marathon, for example, I probably would have pulled out and I wouldn't have raced, because it's a bucket list type of race and you've flown over there and you spent so much money to go over there and
you had your family there as well too.
Yeah. And I always tell my kids, never give up and give it your best. And if I'd known it was that issue with a stress fracture on my sacrum, I don't know, I'm stubborn, I might have run it anyway. But I thought that when I started the race, I thought like the adrenaline would kick in and it would mask the pain. And I think that sort of might have been the truth for the first, 13 kilometres. I was actually running really quick and really well. And it was only that one part of my body that was letting me down. Everything else, I was firing on all cylinders, but it was just that one part. And then, after that, it became a grind. And then I think I saw my family about the 30K mark. I think I was in tears. And I knew it was just a struggle. Just running was, for more than 10, 15 metres was a bit painful, and had to walk pretty much the rest of the way to the finish. I think the last kilometre, I ran the whole kilometre, and it was like a 5-minute pace kilometre, but it felt as fast as it felt like a 3-minute pace kilometre. It was that hard to do. So finishing it, I was happy to get the medal. The time was the slowest time I've done any of the majors in. I think it was 3 hours 44 minutes. But I was glad I finished it. But it's just so hard when you go overseas and you're there for that one particular event and you're not sure if you should race it or not. And in my past, I've had issues before races where I've actually come good on race day. So,
well, as you say, sometimes that adrenaline sort of kicks in, and then the body does the rest. But going all that way, you've got your family, you've spent all that time and money, all that effort and training.
Yeah,
you finished it, you did it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other people may have dipped out and said they couldn't do it. But as you say, that's part of the part of the 6.
Yep.
You've ticked off 5 of the 6. Is that correct?
4.
4 of the 6.
So this next half of the year is going to be interesting. I'd like to do a major event or a big event, a goal race in the early part of the year and then in the later part of the year. So this year it was Tokyo, and then I was going to do Sydney as my major next race. I really go for it. So I've entered the Sydney Marathon, and that's the World Age Group Championship, and I was hoping to do really well there. But then I've got the Melbourne Pacing as well shortly after the marathon, and then because I didn't do so well at New York at Tokyo, I signed up for New York. So I've got 3 marathons all bunched around together. So I've got Sydney in September, Melbourne in October, New York in November. Are
you guaranteed for New York?
Yeah, I've paid for the entry. I've got in. Yep. So
how'd you get in?
The top 19%.
Oh, the age group. You got in with that 19%. Oh,
yeah,
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm going to have to probably prioritise them, and I'll probably pick New York as the one that I actually go for it, and because there's a risk that if I go hard at Sydney that I pull up sore and then I can't do the Melbourne Marathon, and then I can't, I can't do New York. So I've got to play it a little bit cleverly.
Yeah, for sure.
I tackle it for the rest of the year, and then that will just leave London for me to go. So
that's the hardest one to get into, isn't it?
From an international runner perspective, it is it's very difficult. There's no time qualification for international runners on that one. There is and this is where each one has their own unique requirements, where with London Marathon, you have to join like an athletics club in London and then wear one of their shirts. So like if I'd have to join like a EDFL or one of the running clubs and then wear their shirt and then qualify with a certain time to run to the club championships. So it's a little bit tricky and finicky to do, but it's definitely doable. So without having to go through that yet, I've tried to go in via the lottery, but I don't think the chances are good there. And there's this event in New Zealand I've been eyeing off for a while as well, and that's
Which one's that?
It's a Tarawera ultra trail type of event.
Yeah, I know the one. I think I'm pretty sure my brother's done that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Because you're crazy enough to do more than just a marathon, aren't you? You're doing these ultra marathons. You've done these ultra marathons.
Yep.
And we're talking 100 Ks.
Yeah.
Or 100 Ks plus.
Yeah. So I did this time last year. There's Ultra Trail Australia in the Blue Mountains. It's about 4,000 plus elevation, over 100 kilometres, lots of steps. I think over 10,000 steps, which is interesting after running a whole day. And it was something that I said I'd never do. Just like I said, I'll just run one marathon. So never ever say you're not going to do something.
I can see your mentality. I mean, you're one of these guys that you should never do drugs because you'll do heroin once and then you'll just love it. You know?
Yeah.
So I looked at some of your socials and that, and I thought you just were a marathon runner, but you're crazy enough to do these ultra marathons. And
I like to do things sometimes that are my weakness as well to improve on them. So I thought, like, generally speaking, hill running isn't my strength. So to do an event like the Ultra Trail Australia with 4,000 metres elevation, it's not my cup of tea. It's not what I'm naturally good at as a runner. I'm normally just good on the flat stuff and just maintaining that pace for a long time. So doing that event was something a bit out of my comfort zone, but it was like fantastic. So interestingly enough, I injured myself the week before that, and I wasn't able to run at all until the actual race day. I tried to pick up my when I picked up my bib, I tried to run, just a couple of meters, and I was in pain. So on race day, and this is where it comes to Tokyo as well. I'm like, oh, I've had a few of these instances where I've been able to just get myself out of it. So I just took it really like a little. I held back a little bit with the Ultra Trail Australia race, and took it easy the first few kilometres, and waited for my calf and ankles and or whatever it was happening at the time to warm up, and it came good on the day, so that was fantastic. I was prepared to walk a lot of that 100 kilometres, and it could have taken more than a day to do, and as the day wore on, I kept getting better and better, and I think I was about 30th at one point, and then I was gradually just overtaking people, and then near the end of the race, overlapped with the 50-kilometre runners, and someone said to me, "You're coming sixth."
Fuck.
I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Overall?
Yeah. So this is exactly like what I wanted to hear near the end, because that gave me motivation.
Oh, for sure.
To hold on to that sixth position. So
that's insane. And that's where you finished?
Yeah. Yeah.
100 Ks. Yeah. How long? How long did it take you?
It was 10.5 hours, I think, roughly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane. Yeah. Have you ever done an Oxfam?
No, I haven't. No.
So I walked the Oxfam. I don't know when I did that. It was a long time ago. 22 hours. And that was a mind fuck. That was a complete mind fuck. And like we saw the runners, take off. And they're just unbelievable. I got to take my hats off to these guys, man. It's just insane.
Yeah.
What's going through your head? Because we've seen some photos. Do you run with music? You don't run with pods?
So most races I won't wear music. But when I did that 100K, obviously it's a long time out on the road, and you do need that motivation. And I did plug in the music for a bit on that one, and then I realised I was actually draining my watch a fair bit after a few hours. So because my watch has been on GPS mode all day pretty much, and I was a little bit concerned that it would actually drop off. So anything like I'll do easy runs during the week, and I'll listen to music, and I'll have like Spotify on my watch and Bluetooth.
Are we talking music or podcasts?
Music generally, yeah. A bit of anything. And then if I'm really struggling, I've got some special playlists that, a bit of...
What do you like? Do you like a bit of duff or...?
Not really. It's more like the motivational stuff. There might be some rocky music on there, or, I don't know, anything that just gives me a bit of extra...
Like driving music, something that's just going to amp you up.
Yeah. Sometimes that can work against you, because then you start running. Yes, that's been on the playlist before, I think. So
of course,
anything that just gives you a bit of extra motivation always helps. So,
but as you say, sometimes you can start going too fast and going over your pace. Yeah. So you got to sort of pull it back a bit. Rocky comes on, and next thing you know, you're doing another 30 seconds quicker. But so when you're not running with music, have you got an internal playlist looping in your head?
Not really. Normally I like to run on trail type of surfaces. So a lot of the time I'm focusing not to trip over on a tree root or something like that. So I might be thinking about work or solving a problem, or normally just like it's really hard to describe what you think about when you run, because it may vary, but sometimes I'm not thinking about anything, and I think that's what's great about running. Like, it just clears your mind. But it'll depend on a day-to-day basis, but it could be thinking about anything, to be honest. So but that's what I love about it. I love variety as well. So I don't like, there's some people that might associate running with treadmills, and like I get bored running on a treadmill. It's so boring. I find it like the worst thing to possibly do. I'd rather run out in the pouring rain than to run on a treadmill. And I just love the visual, just seeing things, and
it smells as well too.
Yeah, exactly. And all the different, I'll come across, especially running down the peninsula way, lots of wildlife and animals, and just the amount of things you spot, and the amount of places that you wouldn't necessarily see if you didn't run. Because I love to get out in the car and drive to places to run and mix it up and do different routes and keep it interesting. I think variety is really important in running.
Well, as you say, you're seeing a lot of things that you don't normally see when you're sitting in a car, or even on a push bike, because you're on these. You might be on these trails, and you just seeing so much more of the countryside. It's just amazing. The one thing that I used to hate was I would get something in my head, and it would just be on a constant loop, and it would be fucking really frustrating to try to get rid of it. And somebody taught me about, I think they called it looping, where you put your fingers together and concentrate on that.
Yeah.
Trying to internalize all your energy and shit.
Yeah.
And it helps because it takes your mind off what's on your mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I miss it. I fucking miss it. I really do. It's unfortunate, but yeah, as I said, with they said that you could run with a hip replacement, but the thing is that the same with anything with your bones, it'll wear and tear, you know. And it's not how long, it's not how much you can do with it. It's how much it's going to last and when you're going to need another replacement. Yeah, yeah. And with injuries as you get older, you've got to manage everything, you know, and you've got to be sensible about it. Yeah, you know, like Mav just did his MCL at rugby, and it's like, you've got to understand, you're 15 years old and you've had this injury. You need to manage it and not do anything stupid, because down the line, if there's some damage that, you know, is going to repeat, you know, you don't want to have problems like that at that age.
Yeah, and it's similar to when I used to play tennis, and you almost need to find, so if you can't run anymore, it's almost like, well, what else can I do? So when I get injured, sometimes it's like, no point focusing on what you can't do, like what can I do? So when I'm injured, sometimes I'll do stuff like I'll do pull-ups or chin-ups and things that I necessarily won't do just to,
do you ride bikes? Do you push bike?
Yeah, I do the push bike a bit. Yeah. So I've been doing a little bit of that lately as well. I swam a bit. I think when I was training for the Berlin Marathon, I had ITB friction syndrome. Didn't know it at the time as well. Thought it was something wrong with my knee for a little bit. So I was alternating between running and swimming, and actually became a half decent swimmer.
I'm sure you did, mate. You sound like a natural achiever. But guys like you really suck, because you'll take up something.
I'm no good now at swimming, but back then, because I was doing it so often, it was good.
So do you normally train by yourself?
For the majority of my, like, if looking back on the 8 years, I've been majority of it training by myself. Last few years I've been training in a running group just down the road at Melbourne Pack. So
do you find that helps?
It does. It helps keep you accountable. So I'll tell so there'll be guys that run around the same pace as me. So it's good just to sit behind them and you know, switch off and let them. Sometimes it's hard, especially when you're doing those speed sessions, to dial in your pace. So you might go out too hard or not quick enough. So if someone else is good at setting the pace, and I'll just sit behind them. But it's also good in the fact that when it becomes hard, I don't want to give up, because I don't want to let the team down. Like, if someone gives up, then it also impacts me to a degree. So I always say to the guys, you know, don't quit. Just, you know, if you have to slow down, but don't just pull the pin, because quitting becomes a habit as well. And as soon as you start quitting when things get tough, you'll do it in a race. So I'll try not to quit, even if I'm dying out there. I'll slow, you know, or slow it down a little bit. But if in my mind, before the start of a session, let's say the session is 1 kilometre reps, for example, like if I say I'm going to do 8 1 kilometre reps or 6 or whatever, I'll make sure I'll do the 6, even if the last one's a bit slow, just so you break that habit of quitting. Because like it does, like if you quit during a session, you'll quit during a race, it'll just become hard. You'll always give yourself a ticket to get out of it when things get tough.
Exactly. If anybody's listening to this, those words, man, unbelievable. Don't quit. Yeah. It doesn't matter whether it's running or anything else. It doesn't matter what it is in life. Yeah. As you say, you start quitting, you start giving up. You know, you might as well not start doing it. Well, you might as well not do the job in the first place. I always said to my son, if you're going to do it, do the job properly. Yeah. You know, do not quit. Complete the task, complete the job, have that satisfaction, and it builds character and it makes you better.
And you feel, once you've done something hard and you've pushed past that point where you wanted to quit, you just feel great at the end of the session. You're like, geez, it was hard work, but, you know, I did what I was set out to do. And, yeah, and when you do it with a group, because it's easy, if you're on your own, you can easily give yourself a ticket to not work as hard, or to quit early and go, yeah, I've done enough, you know. But when you're in a group, you feel like you owe it to the group to
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're accountable as well when you're not with that group. But it definitely adds value to what you're doing. Now, with regards to, so those people listening that haven't run a marathon, haven't run, we're not talking about just going out and running kilometres, are we, to prepare for a marathon or for a half marathon, for a 10K. You talked about speed work. So explain to our listeners training for a marathon. How does it start?
Yes, so normally you obviously got to build up your weekly kilometres, but once you've built up your weekly kilometres, a lot of the runs will be easy runs where you just go out there and jog, and you don't really need to carry or worry about the pace that you're doing. It's just, I'm going to run 16 kilometres, for example. So I might do a 16-kilometre run in the morning.
So it's about Ks, not time.
Yeah,
it's about distance.
Not
time.
For the easy runs. And then I might, if I'm feeling good, I might do another one in the afternoon as well. And that might be 10 kilometres. So if you average around, close to 30, it's a 200-kilometre week. Now that's like serious training for a marathon. But, if you're doing around, if you want to do really well in a marathon, you probably need to be doing around 120, 130 kilometres a week. On a Tuesday, I would do a speed session, and the speed sessions will be mixed up, and there'll be lots of different types of sessions. You need a bit of variety. If you're doing the same thing over and over again.
Okay, so what's the benefit of these speed sessions? What does it do for your body?
For me, it obviously gets you used to running at a pace faster than your marathon pace. So if your marathon pace is 5 minutes, if you're doing 4 minutes 20 pace, it's hard work. You're really your heart rate's high. You're really pushing it, for example. But what happens is that when you do your marathon pace, it actually feels easier because you're used to running at that quicker pace. So for me, it's around about tricking the body to think that like a 3:30 marathon pace isn't that bad. Like if I'm doing 1 kilometre reps and I'm doing them low 3-minute kilometres, then your body just gets like comfortable at the 3-minute 30 pace, for example, because you can actually go a bit quicker than that. So those speed sessions are all about running faster than the marathon pace and making that marathon pace more sustainable and easier. So behind the scenes, it's probably doing a lot for your cardiovascular system and training the different heart rate zones and whatnot, and getting your body to expel and
so all your VO2 and
yeah, yeah.
So at a race pace, what's your beats per minute? What's your heart going at?
It's interesting. So I don't really monitor it too much because I won't wear a heart rate strap in a race. Some people do, and the wrist tracking is not always that accurate.
Yeah.
The fitter you are, obviously the lower it should be, but I can run with a pretty high heart rate, but I don't generally want to leave it at that rate. But
so what's high?
Maybe 180s.
That is high.
Yeah. I think I've run, and the reason why I don't like it sometimes is if you're in a marathon and you say, oh great, my heart rate's 200 beats per minute or whatever, like that information may not help you.
No, it's going to make it worse.
Exactly.
You're going to go, fuck, that's too high.
Exactly. So I don't generally, like when I run a marathon, I'll only have my watch with the pace that I'm running, the splits for the kilometres, not too much information. I don't know, like it's always hard to dial in exactly. Like if you wanted to run a particular heart rate, it's not that easy to dial it in on your watch as well to say, I'm going to run at 170 and keep it at 170. So sometimes I find not all feedback is good. May not help you. So I try not to worry about it too much. More or less I worry about the kilometres and the pace. But even that can be a challenge. So when I did Chicago, there's lots of tall buildings and you're going under some bridges and the GPS gets impacted by that, so your splits get a little bit off and your times aren't accurate, and so it can be a little bit tricky sometimes. You're monitoring yourself in a marathon.
But you should know yourself personally, sort of how you're tracking, aren't you?
Yeah.
As you say, you're referring to a device, and sometimes it's going to be interrupted, and then that's going to give you a little bit more anxiety that you really don't need, do you? As far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
But generally, you know what your pace is, you know what your heart's going, you know how you're tracking.
Yeah.
Because that's what training's all about.
Yeah.
It's setting your body up to get used to those conditions.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you do specifically training-wise for a marathon? up and above, or something that somebody doesn't do? Is there mindful work? Is there like with regards to your general well-being?
Mm-hmm.
You know, have you got a masseuse on the books? I get chiropractor, osteo.
Yeah, I'm regularly proactively trying to do myotherapy to make sure, especially when you're doing those big weeks. If you're doing
myotherapy,
like massages and whatnot. Yeah, yep. So I've done that. I've had. After a race before, I've had cryotherapy, but that was even harder than running the ultra.
Oh, Jesus. So cryotherapy's in basically...
like a shower with minus 150 degrees or something, or whatever.
That's not your average ice bath, is it?
Time goes very slow, just like planking. So...
Why would you plank? Why do you need to plank? It's like burpees. Fuck burpees.
Yeah. But nothing too out of the ordinary. I have a dog as well, so I like to walk the dog all the time and make sure... so my mornings generally involve, grabbing a coffee, going for a walk, and, there's not too much of the day left to do. Like, there's a lot of things you probably should do with running, and strength and conditioning and this and that, but it's just hard balancing everything, right? So you got to train a lot, you got to run a lot of kilometers, then life gets in the way, work gets in the way. It would be great, like, if you didn't have anything but to worry about your training, but, you can't do everything, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, you can imagine what athletes are like, paid athletes.
Yeah.
Their whole life, their whole day, their whole schedule's around what they need to achieve.
Yeah.
You've got family, as you say, family, work, and everything. Life just gets in the way.
I wonder if those guys hate running because it's almost like a job for them. Like, I wonder if I'd like running if it was my sole purpose, or... Well,
obviously you've got to love what you do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't bother doing it.
Yeah.
But I think there's, like every athlete, they get to the point where they just, with normal people with a job, everything just gets so ho-hum, and it's just life. It's just you're just rolling along. Doing what you need to do to survive. I'm sure athletes, hey, I'd love to get a professional athlete on here to pick their mind. We've had female boxers in here, and it's interesting what they have to do. And as you say, as an amateur or somebody that just wants to be the best at what their chosen sport, there's a lot of sacrifices, and running's definitely one of the most selfish ones.
Yeah.
Because as you say, you're doing a couple of 100 Ks a week. You're spending a lot of time on the road.
Yeah.
You've got the recovery, and then you've got everything else on top of that. So I people like you inspire me because you're doing what you love, and you're fucking good at it. Which is amazing.
The family seems to like the overseas holidays that
of course
come
they
with
do.
Running, so it's one of the easier things to get across the line.
Yeah, where are we going this year? What's the calendar this year?
Yeah, so the race is somewhere slotted into the holiday, and we've done the Disneyland and the Disney Worlds and some of those things, and
that's amazing.
A lot of the time, my lead up to a marathon is a lot of sightseeing and being a tourist. So sometimes not the most ideal preparation, but you've got to do the, especially...
That's the thing, you're not going to go all that way and not experience the other stuff.
Exactly.
It's not like you're going to send your family off by themselves to Disney. It just doesn't work that way. So, as you say, it's a great sport because you get to travel to all these amazing places. You look at the top 6, New York, Chicago, Berlin, London, Boston, Tokyo, Japan. You've just come back from there. It's just an amazing place. Is that the first trip you've been there?
Yeah,
first time you've been there?
First, and I'll be definitely going back, I think.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I feel like I only saw 1% of the place, so just so much to see and do. And
the people are just so amazing. The food's amazing. What do you think of the food?
It was pretty good.
Are you a big foodie? Do you like your food?
I am, but we have to balance. So when you're traveling with a family of 4, and I've got a 9-year-old who's very fussy with their food.
Oh, really?
So there's a lot of compromises.
Is that the son or the daughter?
Son. Yeah.
What doesn't he like? He doesn't like fish,
everything.
Rice.
Yeah. My daughter's a bit more adventurous, and my wife can eat anything. But he's very fussy. So
he'll figure it out.
Yeah,
he'll figure it out.
It's always
just give him time.
A matter of negotiation about where we end up eating, and sometimes we have to split up. And my wife and daughter
go to
way.
7-Eleven and we'll go to. That one. Did you notice about obviously the vending machines in 7-Eleven?
They're so so well priced as well. Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, you can go there and eat quite cheaply.
Yeah.
As you say, the 7-Elevens, the Seiko Marts, all those places, they've just got a great variety of food.
Yeah.
It's just insane. It's just insane. So if we're talking about nutrition, we're talking about food. What's your diet look like?
It's generally pretty healthy. My wife might argue, but it's generally pretty healthy. Lots of rice, lots of chicken. I love bread. I do have a sweet tooth as well, so I don't mind the odd chocolate bar here or there. But generally speaking, sometimes when I'm running, it's really interesting because you're out running all the time, and sometimes with work, I might be able to. The only time I'm free maybe might be from like 12 to 1 o'clock. So sometimes I'll end up eating lunch at about 3 o'clock, and it'll just be something that I quickly whip together. And but generally speaking, I don't really I don't weigh myself. I don't worry if I'm hungry. I'll eat something.
You don't count calories.
I don't count calories. I don't do
So
any of that stuff.
You have no idea how many calories you're consuming.
And I try not to worry. But like I think with running, you do need to have muscle and weight, and you don't want to become too lean as well. So when I'm running a lot, like it's hard just to maintain the weight, and I can tell when I look in the mirror how lean I am. So I sort of want to prep my body so I'm peaking just before a marathon, and I'm like my leanest probably before a marathon, but I don't need to generally do anything special to make that happen.
Do you mind if I ask what your running weight is, kg wise?
Yeah, it's probably like 72 or so, like not much. But
you're 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah, about 179 centimeters.
Yep.
So there are guys that I run with, and they're a lot lighter than me, and they just fly by. So, but they're smaller, and so different body types and whatnot. But yeah, like for me, like I've never worried too much about the body weight, especially going up hills and a lot of that training that I do. A lot of the marathons they're not all flat. You've got to use your glute muscles, your hamstrings, your quads. So,
well, Sydney's not flat, is it?
No,
that's one of the.
I'm not. My friend did that last year, one of my training buddies, and it was like a 30-degree day or something by the time they were finishing up. So
that's insane.
And the marathon started later in the day, so they had a half starting earlier, and ideally the marathon would have been earlier.
I thought the marathon was always the first to go off.
Yeah, not at Sydney, I don't think.
That's weird, isn't it?
And you never know. Like September, like they had a really hot day, and most runners will say they'd prefer to run in rain or wind, and the heat can, just by default, like your heart rate goes up by about 10.
It just zaps you.
Yeah, it can hit you all of a sudden. You can be doing really well, and you can get dehydrated really quickly, and it's very hard to drink while you're running as well, especially at the faster speeds. So you grab a cup, half of it comes out when you grab it, and then you've got to have a little bit of a drink, and you don't get that much.
Do you have those satchels of goos in that?
Yeah,
when you
I run with gels as well. Yeah, so I try to take one of them every 6 kilometres or so.
Oh, 6Ks. That's
you got to sort of have them proactively, because by the time you start to feel dehydrated,
it's too fucking late.
Yeah. But the ones I take, they're generally quite expensive, so I don't really train with those ones, and then I'll just train with the cheapo ones, and then on race day I'll have the more expensive ones that are a bit more flavourless. You can eat them, drink them without any water. Okay, they go down all right. The only annoying thing is you have to carry them. So if you see that photo there, that Kathmandu, that probably starts off with about 6 or 7 gels in there. And then when you're running, you've got to unzip it and then grab your gel, down the gel. Hopefully after you have the gel, there's a drink station nearby. But
so you're saying you want to wash it down. Are they that bad, are they?
This one's not too bad, but sometimes they can get a little bit gooey on your hands, so you might run your hands over your head and try to get rid of the stickiness and whatnot.
So that photo that we're looking at up there, just for our viewers, obviously, what event was that?
So that was the Traralgon Marathon. Interesting one. That was.
So Traralgon, that's in Victoria.
Yeah, it's one of the. I think it's the oldest marathon in Australia. Most iconic.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you Google that, Mav?
And,
Traralgon Marathon. We want to know whether it's the oldest or oldest first.
Yeah,
first
I think it's the oldest.
Wow.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, I think.
Oh, we're about to find out.
So that was interesting because I trained for the Gold Coast Marathon, and this is just coming out of COVID, or at the end of the COVID, and we were in lockdown in Victoria, and what happened was Queensland was all opened up, and then it was almost a role reversal. Gold Coast Marathon came around, and then Queensland started having a few cases. We were out of lockdown, and I trained for a long time to do the Gold Coast Marathon.
And it was shut down.
And it was shut down. We couldn't go.
Shit.
So
that was about the only thing in Gold Coast that was shut down, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Trafalgar Marathon inaugural run, 24th of August.
Oldest current marathon.
1968. So to give you a comparison, the first Melbourne Marathon was 1978.
Yeah, so basically when I found out that Queensland wasn't going to happen with the Gold Coast Marathon, that most people who train really hard for that were like, well, when's the next closest one? So I think a few weeks after the Gold Coast Marathon, the Trafalgar Marathon was held, and it sold out because a lot of people that had trained for the Queensland Marathon wanted then to do Trafalgar. So like running, nothing ever goes to plan. Things always go wrong, and this was a prime example where Gold Coast didn't happen. Trafalgar happened, but I was in really good nick for that one, so I ran out. And
you're looking good there, mate.
Yeah, I was feeling good as well. And I pretty much ran the whole race on my own.
Oh, really?
I went out a little bit too quick in the first kilometre. I think I did like a 3:07 and then realised, hey, I'm way too excited here. And
Pull it back.
That was the first marathon I won, so it was a pretty good day at the
Oh, congratulations! That's
Thanks.
amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, Mav, can you just bring that article back up, because I've just noticed something. Because we had
it's me laying on the ground. Is it with my bum?
No. It's actually the stats, because we had some our good friends from runners in here, and we're talking about female marathon runners.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you ever look at that article, it says down there that the women's marathon began in 1978. Now, that was also the first year that the Melbourne Marathon run. So female runners weren't allowed to run in marathons up to a certain point.
Yeah.
Which is fucking crazy. It's just bonkers.
Yeah. There's some photos where, like, there was a woman that tried to run the Boston Marathon once, and
we had it on the podcast. So we cover that.
Yeah.
We cover that in one of our first podcasts with the guys at Runners. I forget her name, but yeah, it was a pivotal moment in sports history and marathon running.
Yeah.
She ran in sweats so that she would look like a man, and she was actually pulled off the course.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Buckfast. What is Buckfast, you ask? Well, let me tell you. It's better known as Bucky, and it's an internationally enjoyed, unique tasting tonic wine. It's equally rich in heritage as it is in taste. It packs a punch from 15% alcohol and about the same amount of caffeine as a well-known drink that gives you wings. Buckfast's enjoyment is only rivaled by its versatility from the cooking pot to the wine or cocktail glass. Drink it straight, mix it in a Negroni, or use it as a marinade. Available Australia-wide and distributed by Beeblebrox Beverages. Visit beeblebrox.com.au to find your closest stockist, and buckfast.com for cocktail and recipe ideas. Mate, I just had to run to the toilet. Jeez. Tasty beers. We were talking
just on that. So I thought when I ran the Tokyo Marathon, I was probably looking a bit more than normal because I wasn't running as fast as normal, and I did see some toilets on the marathon, and it was almost like some of them were 400 meters away. Like it had a toilet zone 400 meters away.
Off the track.
So if you had to go to the toilet at some parts,
you
were
running
probably an extra K onto the marathon.
That's insane. Yeah. Did you have to go do a deuce, did you?
No, I didn't.
No?
But the funny story was, there's this Facebook group and on the chat, they're very strict over in Japan as opposed to other world major marathons. So
in what respect?
So if you do a deuce while you're running, so in some marathons I've seen that where people
just stop and just have a deuce on the road.
No, they do it accidentally almost, and it comes out of their shorts.
Oh,
it's not a pleasant sight.
Yeah, it's never happened to you.
Never happened to me.
Thank God.
Thank God. Yeah. Knock on wood. But you see them continue and finish the race, and I heard of a story where it did happen with someone. They've done a deuce and they've kept on running. and then the officials have tried to pull them off the track because of that.
In Japan, you're talking about?
Yeah, disqualification.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you shit your pants in Tokyo?
Yeah. You'll
you can
be
get
pulled off course. Yeah. So that scenario happened, and they obviously, the official tried to stop the runner, and the runner kept on going, and they're very persistent in Tokyo. So next thing you know, they're out in the bikes. And
really?
They got to the person, and that's an interesting way to be disqualified.
They're just struggling to push bike to keep up with them to give them a disqualification or get them to stop.
Yeah.
That's insane. Talking about stopping a marathon, we talked previously about that. So it was Catherine Switzer, and it was so we're looking at the photo of her being dragged off the road during that marathon. And as you can see, she's in grey sweats, and the reason why she wore those was so that she looked like a male. And that was 1967. And that changed women's marathon running.
Pioneer.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So hats off to her.
Yeah.
And as you say, she's one of those people that will not give up.
Yeah.
You know, and are dedicated to the sport that they love.
It's taken, look in that photo. How many people? Is that three people are trying to push her off course? She's pretty strong.
I think I think the two guys behind are pushing the older guy who's the official off her. I think that because you can see behind it. Yeah. So they're grabbing the official.
Yeah,
so kudos to them. But that a pivotal point in history in marathon running.
Mm-hmm.
So you haven't shit yourself while running?
No,
which is good to know.
But I try to ensure that I don't eat or especially drink milk before a long run. So,
are you lactose intolerant? You just don't want to risk it.
Yeah, I don't want to risk it. So, like normally I'll have a latte normally at the coffee shop. But if I'm doing a marathon or an ultra marathon, I'll just have a shot of caffeine. Terrible sleeper before a marathon. I just get all anxious and just have broken sleep. And most marathon runners are similar. There are some that sleep like a baby, but unfortunately that's not me. It's not
like you can have a couple of beers the night before to relax, is it? I mean, that's counterintuitive. So if we're talking about preparing for a marathon, what's your morning routine leading up to the race?
So the morning routine would be just to keep it similar to what I would normally do. So most Sundays I would do a long run. I don't want to change my routine too much. There's some people that go a bit crazy and go carb loading, and they have huge meals before a marathon. And if you're training for a marathon, you want to keep it as similar to as what you've been doing. It shouldn't change too much. So some of those longer runs in your training runs, you might be doing 35 plus kilometers or so, or 36 you might max out before a marathon, and you shouldn't really have to change it too much. So generally before a marathon, if I've got a marathon on the Sunday, I might have a pasta type of lunch on the Saturday, and then have a bigger meal Saturday, and then at night time not have too large a meal. I don't want to obviously be feeling bloated or full during a marathon. In the morning, I might have a couple of slices of toast or something simple. So that's all you're putting in your body. Yeah. Prior to that. Yeah. So we're talking what, 500 calories worth of carbs and bread. The gels help you a bit as well though. So the gels, if you have one of them every 6Ks, there's a bit of carbs in those things. So I feel generally pretty good with that approach. What I'm really concerned about is I don't want to be feeling too heavy on the legs. I don't want to be regretting that large meal that I had the night before. So I don't have a huge meal. I'll probably load up on carbohydrates and have a bagel or something like that. But for the most part, I generally don't like to change it up too much. Like I said, I normally do a long run on a Sunday, even when I'm not training for a marathon. So you don't need to change your routine too much. Some people go a little bit overboard, and then they may pay the penalty on race day. Well, as you say, the penalty is they need to do a shit halfway through the race. Yeah. Do you deuce in the morning? Is that your... Oh, everyone tries to. Yeah? Yeah. Are you too scared to... Well, are you sometimes too anxious to... Sometimes it depends on your routine or whatever, but... you do your best, and then you try. Even if you do one, you try again and again, and you never know. And everyone's nervous before a marathon, so you see the queues for the portable toilets and all of that. You've really got to, in the morning, you've got to time everything well, because you can't just wait to the last minute to go to the toilet, because if you wait to the last minute, you might be lining up for 15 minutes just to get into the toilet. So the good thing is a lot of these major marathons and a lot of marathons have plenty of toilets to support the runners.
Well, they know, don't they? They know that that's a pivotal part of the whole event, is making sure that you run in a little bit lighter and a little bit more comfortable. Because you don't want to carry that around for what, 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours. Or people like me, 4 hours, 5 hours, you know. So, as you say, it's about routine. And just for our listeners, long runs. So explain long runs and explain why you do them on Sundays.
So, like, if I go through my weekly schedule, it would be like a Monday easy run, Tuesday speed session, Wednesday easy run, Thursday speed session, Friday easy run. Saturday can be a mixture of, might be hills sessions or it might be easy run. But generally on Sunday, you like to do a longer run.
Now, the reason why you do that is why?
Just to get so your legs start to, you need to be on your feet a lot longer for a long run. So most of my runs, the longest I'll run might be about an hour in duration, whereas the longer runs, if you're doing a marathon, and it might be the average runner does a marathon in 4.5 hours, you've got to be used to being on your feet running for a long period of time.
So we're talking about, look, they suggest about 36 Ks. Is that what they suggest prior to a marathon?
It might peak at a training plan for around about that mark. It might be 34. It varies from plan to plan. But you want to get used to being on your feet for a long time, because when you run the marathon, you're going to be on your feet for a while. So it's just about building the muscles and whatnot to make sure that on the day they're nice and fresh. So the challenge with a marathon is everyone generally feels, if you've trained well, you normally feel good to about the 30K mark. And it's that last 12 kilometres that is, everything just starts to feel a bit heavier, and it can be a bit harder. So the more longer runs you do, the easier it gets on the race day. And
generally marathons are on a Sunday. So what you want to do is you want to align your long run to the day of the event. That's the idea.
I think so.
So you want to marry those two up, don't you? Because it's like that routine: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Race day Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where you want to. That's where you want to be at your peak.
Mm-hmm. You can do, like, it depends. You've got to work it in with your life as well. So when I was training for the Ultra Trail Australia, I actually took Mondays off work to do my long runs then, because my long runs were becoming pretty long. They were actually, because I was training for a 100K race, some of the runs might have been 3 hours or 4 hours. And
so how many, just a question, because we didn't ask this, how many Ks are you training? Like, what would be your longest run prior to running 100Ks? So
for 100K, my longest run was probably about 50Ks. And that was generally it was more like conditions where there was lots of hills and that as well. So it wasn't all flat, and it wasn't on the roads or footpaths. It was, trail type of running. And there were some weeks where I'd do like 3 long runs, so maybe 3 30-kilometre runs, instead of doing, because the trick is, if you're training for a 100-kilometre race, you don't want to be doing like an 80K run and then pulling up really sore that you can't run for the next 4 or 5 days. So you've got to time it or train well enough, so if you do a long run, that you're still able to run Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday if possible, because you've got to make sure your body has enough time to recover, so it's a balancing act as well.
Well, as you say, that recovery is the most important part, and generally, isn't it?
Yeah.
100 Ks. What's the longest you've run? Is it 100K?
That was the longest. Yeah.
That's the longest you've ever done.
Yeah.
In one race.
Yeah. So the bucket list item that I had was in New Zealand, that race. There's a 100-mile option. So
did you say the Tarawera?
Yeah.
100.
There's a 100-kilometre category, and there's also a 100-mile. So that would be like 160.
160.
K's. Yeah.
Fuck.
So that's in, I think, March. So that's something on my radar. Yeah. So if I don't do London, that might be an option. So it's funny how you can go from running a marathon to then, if I don't do the marathon around that time frame, then I might do a 100-mile race.
That's just insane. I mean, anybody listening to this go, really?
Yeah.
You don't want to just do a half and just enjoy it?
The trick is you've got to, like, and what I learnt in the 100K race is they have So after 50Ks, like 50Ks is the warm-up almost. And then for me, I try not to think I'm running 100Ks. Every 10Ks or so, there was an aid station to get, your drinks refilled. At the Ultra Trail Australia, they're really fussy. Like, you can't get support out of the aid stations, like in between aid stations, or else you could get disqualified. It's like an Ironman event, and they're very strict on the rules. So in my mind, I was like, just get to the next aid station. Don't think too far ahead. It's a long race. Don't think if you start counting down too early and going, I've got 50Ks to go, it's just going to, mess with your mind. So it was all about just get to the next aid station. That's only 10 kilometres away. Break it down into manageable, components, not overthink it. And next thing you know, you're going up there. There's a stairway to heaven, or at Blue Mountains, the last kilometre is almost like a vertical kilometre of just climbing stairs to get to the finish line. So
just straight up stairs, just like the 1,000 steps out.
Yeah.
So where were you training for that event here? Because as you say, you can't just train on the flats, otherwise.
Yeah, so like just getting out and about. You go to the Dandenongs, go to Listerfield Lake, just different places with elevation. But also at the same time, I was doing lots of speed work. So the week before, I had a 10K race at Albert Park around the lake there, and I did my 10K PB there, so that was pretty cool.
What's that?
That was 31:45. So the week before UTA, I did the 10K race and then pulled up sore after that. And then I was like, I don't even know if I'll be able to run UTA. So I was doing a bit of training for both speed and long distance endurance events at the same time. So that was a bit different, but yeah.
Listerfield Park's an awesome place.
Yeah, it is.
We mountain bike out there. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
They've actually, I think they had the Commonwealth Games mountain bike track, whatever year it was out there. So it's gorgeous, and it's busy. It's always busy.
I'd love to see in the Olympics or the Commonwealth Games a trail running event.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
It'll never happen though.
Yeah, no, it won't. But it'd be like people year on year watch. Like there's a bucket lister race. Another one I'd love to do. It's called Western States Endurance Run. It's really limited by the amount of entries that you have to run a 100-kilometre race just to enter. So you've got to do one of those to get into. Just to get a lottery ticket that you probably won't get a chance of getting in. So
where is this?
It's in California.
Yep.
Yeah. And they only have like 300 places. It's because it's running through national parks and things. They've got a limit of how many people can enter. Really hard to get into, but it's 100 miles. And 1 minute you're running through deserts, next minute you're running through snow, and they televise it on YouTube, and everyone tunes in and watches it. And like those type of events they're just like runners would just love watching on TV if it had a really good broadcast. And
it sounds like a rock star event, doesn't it? It sounds like they're like the annual awards, like the Grammys. It's just it's insane. It's insane. So as far as bucket list goes, you've got to tick the 6. Obviously, you've got 2 more to go.
Yeah.
Is there anything else up there on that list that?
So the Western States one, so I'd probably switch over to trail running after that and doing more the long endurance ones. And there's one.
Is there a reason why you want to do more of the long distance stuff? Has there been a mind shift, a mentality about you just want to challenge yourself more? Is that what you want to do?
I feel like there's it's the variety as well. Just doing the same thing over and over again can get a little bit repetitive and boring. So I like to mix it up and give myself new challenges. So running 100 miles just to say that I've done it. And when I do it, I want to do a decent job at it as well. So I really love to put in, sometimes it's the journey, not the destination, about putting in the training and making sure that you give it your best shot. So there's obviously those ones as well. There's one in Mont LeBlanc, a really famous one up there to love to be able to do it one day, and they're very expensive.
It's in the French Alps, isn't it?
Yeah. So costs a lot of money, especially when you're taking the family with you as well. So
you don't have to take the family on that one, do you?
No. So
just send them somewhere else instead.
Yeah. They probably want to do that one. But they're looking forward to coming to London and
of course
seeing
they are.
Paris and all of that. Yeah.
Have you been there before?
I have, but not with the family. No,
yeah.
So it was pre-family. So that would be great to go again.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you done a bit of travelling around the world prior to family?
A little. We went to South Africa and did the Kruger Safari, and
cool.
My wife's from Mauritius, so I've been there before as well. And
nice.
Yeah, but not too much. Just Fiji and those type of things, like the local ones. But since running, like, I don't know who planted the seed, but you should. That's almost a Boston qualifier, and then next thing you know, what's Boston? And then next thing you know, you've run a sub 3 hour marathon. You're like, oh, that's a Boston qualifier. You might as well do it. So
boom.
yeah. So
well, you say it's opening up all these doors.
Yeah.
And all these adventures and places. I mentioned earlier that running can be selfish.
Yeah.
But when you're taking your family along with you, they're experiencing the journey with you.
Yeah.
And you're all getting something out of it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And for young kids, I mean, we've always said that kids need to travel. It doesn't matter how old they are; they need to experience it.
Yeah.
Cultures, currency, food. They need to learn and experience it.
Yeah. I never got that opportunity when I was younger. So
a lot of people didn't.
Yes.
I've done a lot of travel, and it was just pure curiosity. It was like, what else is there to find out? What else is there to discover? One of the great things I love about travelling is just going down the back alleys and discovering stuff that's not on a tourist map or on a Google review. Restaurants and everything to do with it. It's just and we distill that into Mav and anybody we see and know. It's travel. Get out.
Yeah.
Get out and figure out what the world's all about. It's got so much to offer. It's amazing. Hey, Spartans. Talk to me about Spartans, because this came up in my research.
Okay.
Explain to me what a Spartan is.
So a Spartan is someone that's run the Melbourne Marathon, I think, 10 times.
Is it only specifically the Melbourne Marathon? Is it a Melbourne thing, is it?
Yeah, so if you've run 12 times, you become part of the Spartan Club, and they have a distinctive singlet that they wear on race day. And it's something more and more Melbourne Marathon is becoming members of, because they've hit that that 10 marathon limit or that milestone. Yeah. So pretty good. I've only done 3 Melbournes myself. Melbourne's not an easy marathon by any means. It's one of the harder ones, I think.
Yep.
Especially any marathon where you have to run back near the start line, but then go back out again.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like you're coming back towards the MCG now. You got to go back out. And,
you're not going to see it for another hour.
Go run past the shrine for a bit, and but it's particularly difficult. I don't think it's one of the easiest ones going around. A lot of people in Australia love going to Gold Coast because it's renowned for being fast and quick.
Yeah, we were talking about that before, weren't we? And I think that's why my brother Andy did that to qualify for, I think, Boston.
Yeah.
Don't quote me. It's a fast, easy marathon as far as marathons are concerned.
Yeah.
Because it's flat.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like you think of a marathon, it is just a flat race on roads, but no, it's not. You've got all this elevation.
Yeah, and there always seems to be a wind no matter where you go. Even on an athletics track, there's always a wind no matter what.
Yep.
Even if you look at the trees and there's nothing there, like by the time you start running, it feels like you're always running into a wind at some point. But yeah, there's never the perfect conditions, I suppose. Melbourne Marathon's definitely one of the harder marathons that I've done, and it's generally it's a great event to be a part of. And like we said before, like just finishing in the MCG and then seeing the other people finish as well, it's one of the bucket list events, and we're lucky to have it in our own backyard.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's an amazing event.
Yeah.
I think they have like something like 10,000 or 11,000 people running the half marathon and like the 10K.
Yeah.
So a total of something like 34,000 participants for that Melbourne event, which is just insane.
Like we said before, selling out within days. The Great Ocean Road Marathon, just on the weekend, all the events were pretty much sold out a long time ago. So people love their running now. It's great to see.
Well, it is. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about it today. Is it just the fact that there's more people, or is there more people getting into running? Because obviously with a lot of things, population and the population growth is driving all these increases in all these areas. Health and fitness, the good thing about social media with people recording their workouts is that they're motivating other people to go do that.
Yeah.
So it is crazy insane, but as you say, it gets to the point where you want to do an event and you've got to jump through hoops, or you've got to qualify. Things are getting harder.
Yeah, they need to almost have more places, especially like Melbourne and some of these events where they can have more people. I don't know if there's council regulations or things where it means that there's a cap on these races, but you don't want to be knocking back people from trying to improve their health and fitness. So
no, exactly. And as you say, a lot of people start running to lose weight.
Yeah,
and it is a perfect method to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's great for your mental health. It's great for your general well-being.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic and cheap way. I say cheap.
Mm-hmm.
It's cheap because you can chuck on a pair of runners and get out your door and go running.
Yeah.
But as you know, doing events and eventing and travel and
physios
and running shoes and gear and it all adds up. But I mean it's probably no worse than a lot of other sports with regards to prices associated with it. But as I said, as far as an easy way to get healthy and fit. Put on a pair of runners and just open your door, because the world's your oyster.
And I feel like with COVID, with the lockdowns and that, and people are allowed to get out and exercise, like just the local places where I used to run, there was just everyone just walking, or a lot of people started running during COVID, I believe, and they've continued doing that. So especially in the training group that I'm a member of, there's a few that have just started running from COVID, and they may have been one of my friends was a really good soccer player, and now he's a really good runner. And really kicked off during COVID, doing more runs and getting his 2 hours of exercise in and whatnot. So
it's about one of the only good things that came out of that whole shitty mess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Insane. Well, that's as you say, it's good that people have adopted it, taken it up, and it's not a fad. It hasn't fallen by the wayside. But as I said, I can't run anymore. I wish I could run. I miss it, but you make concessions and you fill it up with other stuff. But I can't imagine, like guys like you, I can't imagine where you get to the point in your life where you go, I can't run anymore, and having to deal with that situation. It's just, it doesn't bear thinking about. But as you say, you're ticking boxes. You're achieving things that you're setting your mind to, and you're inspiring your kids. And you're seeing the world with your family. How fantastic
is that? Pretty good, isn't it?
Isn't it? Life's good. And we're talking about work-life balance.
Yeah.
You've got an interesting job, haven't you?
Yeah. So I'm an IT architect. So I work early in projects and help design and integrate new systems into a large retailer that I work for, and always working on interesting projects, a lot of cutting edge stuff. These days you might hear about computer vision and AI and all this other stuff. So getting a bit involved with that these days to help, support the business. Yeah.
Well, AI is going to feature heavily in a lot of what you do in it going forward, isn't it?
Yeah.
How long have you been in the industry for?
So I've been working probably 20 plus years, maybe since I've left uni, so probably 24 years now.
So what did you study at uni?
I did a Bachelor of Computing. It was more around, I thought I potentially was going to be a software developer, and did a lot of programming and whatnot, but thought it was something I couldn't do 40 hours a week. I didn't want to be writing code 40 hours a week. So I got into a project management role, and then over years I've changed roles and done lots of different things. I've worked my way from a support role where I was getting priority one problems and fixing problems in the middle of the night, to then doing more build and development type of work about putting software into production, and then going up that one level more, doing more design and being involved in RFPs, RFQs, selecting and buying new products and then integrating them into the organisation. So I've done that, and now I'm in an architect role. So working on new projects, a lot of the cutting edge stuff, and then helping design and implement them into our systems. There's always a lot of work associated with doing that and getting them to plug into your environment in a way that makes it cost effective and meets the business requirements. So
okay, from our listeners' point of view, because a lot of that stuff went right over my fucking head.
Yeah.
So excuse my ignorance.
Yeah.
So say for instance, we were talking previously prior about the checkouts at the grocery stores.
Yep.
So I noticed just recently, so they've just got the cameras on them now.
Yep.
So they've got a little camera in the corner and they've got a little display screen that shows who's at the thing, which I think, okay, that's a security measure. I didn't like it at first. I thought it was a bit intrusive. It was like, why do you need to know? Like, if you're not doing anything wrong, it feels intrusive.
Yeah.
You know, it's like facial recognition and stuff like that. I'm not doing anything wrong, but I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
So I said to you that I noticed now that there's a camera up top. So when you go to the self checkouts, like say for instance fruit and veggies, I put a red onion on there, and normally you'd go put that on the thing, and you go veggies, and then go to O, and then red onion. So it was like beep beep beep.
Yeah.
Now I put the onion on there. The camera up the top knows it's a red onion, and then it automatically comes up on the screen, red onion. I've just got to go bang.
Yeah.
This is what you design.
Yeah, so I'm involved in projects similar to that. So that one's like a fresh produce recognition use case you're talking about there. They'll have a model, they'll train a model with that, and training a model is basically taking thousands of photos of that red onion. And the tricky thing is some customers may have them in bags and that, so it's not that easy to detect what that is. And they'll have a model that gets applied. Sometimes these solutions need to happen in real time, so you need a really quick response around what that image is. They call that inferencing, so I infer that that's an apple, but because I've been trained to see what an apple is or an onion and whatnot. So that is a great thing to make the process more, less, they call it frictionless, so you can do these things without having to navigate through multiple menus to then say, yep, it's this type of onion and that. So it's to really help with the user experience, but it also will help with loss as well. If customers, if it detects what the item is, then there's less work involved in
because the reason why they've got these systems now is theft, isn't it?
Yep.
Like, because you could put a brown onion on there, or sorry, you could put a thing of bananas on there and then just punch in brown onions, which are obviously cheaper, whatever's cheaper. So that's what they're trying to do, is that they're trying to avoid people being arseholes and stealing.
Some retailers sell more carrots than they actually have. So
that's the reason why.
It's a challenge, and I think retail in general, just over the last few years, has struggled with increased loss. And you see it everywhere. You see it in the US. I was in Portland not that long ago, and a lot of stores have closed down. A lot of places have been impacted there by loss. Pretty much every shop had a security guard around there.
Hey, well, we were saying earlier, and Mav, if you can Google search this to correct us if we're wrong. So we were saying, I thought that in America, in certain places, that if somebody steals something under $1 value, they couldn't be apprehended leaving the store. There's a law in some states.
Yeah, it might be California, I think. Yeah,
that says they can exit that store without being confronted or without being detained, because it was under a certain dollar value. Yeah. Have you got anything on that, Mav?
No, there's not a lot actually.
There's not. No. I mean, you've heard of it as well too. I've seen it. I've seen it on the socials and Instas and stuff like that. It would have a
particular law name that it's referred to as. If you Google, but you got to figure out what to Google. But there is increased loss, and it's been impacted by all retailers, big and small.
So knowing what you know and your history, should people be scared of AI?
For the most part, I wouldn't think so. What we're doing is mostly just matching what a computer sees with a CCTV camera, grabbing that stream and then analysing that for, like I said before, is it what type of object it sees in the picture, and is it an apple, is it an orange? It's supposed to help the user experience through the shopping.
So the end user, it's as you say, it's saving time, making it easier.
Instead of navigating through a pick list, the more people that can go through a checkout quicker, then the more customers they can serve. So it helps everyone. Helps you spend less time at the supermarket, for example, but it also helps the retailer as well. The more people they can push through, then the less queues that people have to wait, and
less theft, more money. So it's about profit.
Yeah,
it's about profit.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we look further out from that with regards to artificial intelligence, once again from what you know, should we be scared of the future with AI in it?
I wouldn't think so. Some of these things are hype. You hear a lot of things, but then a lot of it is how companies try to monetize it. So companies like Microsoft and whatnot will say, we can do this AI for corporate, for example, but they'll charge for that service as well. So it won't be free. You'll have to ingest information into those companies for them to learn. It's all about training models and learning. But it might be great for I don't know about you, but sometimes it's hard to find things on the internet, or it's hard to find things at work. There's a lot of sites that we've got like a wiki at work called Confluence, and a lot of information's stored there, but to get the right information can be a little bit tricky sometimes. So if you can do your job quickly, then obviously that makes it a little bit less stressful for you. Because I've been at work a while, a lot of people come to me. I'm like the AI at work, and I can go, this is who you speak to, or this is what you do. But I think, especially now with a lot of people working from home and that, I feel like these things will help with people being able to do their job in a more efficient way. There's always some creepy things that you can do with technology. You could put Bluetooth things in like a retail environment and say, a Bluetooth beacon and then go, oh, we noticed that you haven't bought toothpaste in the last 3 months. Do you want to buy toothpaste? So if you've got like an app that interfaces with the Bluetooth beacon, and then it goes off and pulls off your transaction history and what you last bought and when, you can do some really like creepy type of stuff. But
do you call that creepy, or do you call that handy?
It depends, because it can go into that creepy world where people want personalization. You hear it a lot, but personalization, depending on how you do it, can be creepy as well. But they'll have, a lot of organizations will have groups around, human-centered design and teams that ensure that we do these things in a good way.
Okay, so you use the word creepy.
Yeah.
Where's the border between helpful and creepy? Where's the line for you? So give me an example of helpful and creepy.
Yeah. So creepy might be, let's say, like that situation where someone hasn't bought a toothbrush in 6 months. That might be creepy for someone to say, hey, last time you bought a toothbrush here was, 9 months ago. You're probably due for a new toothbrush. That could be, someone might find that creepy, another person might find that helpful. So it all depends on who you are.
So it's interpretation. So like some people are offended to something where some people aren't.
Yeah.
You just say it's helpful. Yeah. It makes you think though. So
yeah.
AI, I understand AI is going to make things better and easier. Is it going to create a world of lazy people?
Potentially. Just like anything, like I feel like just after coming back from Tokyo, I noticed that everyone was super lean and fit from Tokyo, and I was like, I was just thinking, why is that the case? And then you come back to Australia and everyone gets in a car and drives everywhere in a car. And when I was navigating to and from places in Tokyo, it was like walk to the train station, walk here, walk there. Not many people have cars. So, laziness can be, like, you can be lazy because of the way that the environment is like made, like where we don't have the infrastructure and the transport like Japan do. It's more convenient for them to catch a train to go from A to B. For us, it's easier to just drive from A to B because there's not as many, close by train stations. Potentially, the infrastructure is not as set up. So, with AI, like if you become so dependent on it, you might be lazy. But for me, like I've had an Amazon Alexa at home for a while, and it can do all this cool stuff. And all I ever do is ask it to set timers. So. Alexa, set a 10-minute timer for cooking and that. And that's all I ever use it for, really. I don't ask it about the news or the weather. And
is that because you're scared that it's going to accumulate more information about you? Is that are you consciously not using it, or is it you're just lazy?
Just lazy. But it's funny though, because
just lazy to use an aid.
What I think could potentially be creepy, and I don't really know how this works, but it always feels like you have a conversation with someone, and next thing you know, you're scrolling through Facebook or Instagram, and you get an ad for something, and you're like, "That's weird. I was just talking about."
I can be sitting. I can be sitting in a pub talking about something with my wife, and my phone will be on the table just like that.
Yeah.
And then I don't even have to type 3 letters, and that search will come up.
Yeah.
And it could be a destination, it could be a product, it could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you say, creepy, but also fucking handy, because I don't have to type the whole thing out, or I don't, So it's funny that as we get more advanced as a civilization, it seems we're getting more lazy because everything's been laid out on the table for us.
These days, if you lose your phone for 30 minutes, you freak out.
Fucking hell, Jesus!
And now it's everything. I think they're doing the driver's licenses on it now, so you can get your Vic Roads license on your phone now.
Yeah, see stuff like that.
Yeah.
I anything that's going to make your life easier, like not having to physically carry, because that's the thing. Everybody's got their phone. They've always got their phone on them. If they don't have it, they freak out. I went to the pharmacy the other day to get some cold and flu, and they said, "Have you got your driver's license?" And I said, "No."
Yeah.
I knew it was in my car.
Yeah.
That was 50 metres away, but I wasn't going to walk back to it.
Yeah.
Whereas if I had it on my phone, boom, there you go.
And it's so stressful when your phone's got like 10% battery, right? That is like, you feel real anxious, and you're like, am I going to make it? And
isn't it crazy? Isn't it crazy how stuff like that affects, people in society? I mean, that's why anxiety's just off the charts. It's crazy. Now, I'm going to still talk about AI because I want to get your opinion on it.
Sure.
So AI, if we're talking about advanced technology, artificial intelligence, we're talking about robots, and we're talking about military applications. Does this scare you personally? You've got a family, you've got 2 young kids. Does the future, because you're an IT guy, you've always been an IT guy, you know more about it than a lot of other people. Does it scare you?
Personally, no, because I think we're far away from everything in Australia. We're not really close to...
Is that the only reason?
Well...
Would it be different if you lived in America or Europe?
If you live closer to China, maybe, or, like... You
realise China's just on our doorstep.
Yeah, I know, and they're encroaching, and you see every time there's always the government saying, there was an incident the other day with flares or something that, over international airspace and things. So, most things these days, most wars are... You watch or you hear stories about... there was one on Netflix not that long ago where it was, I think Obama had something to do with it as well, directing it or something, where it was like a terrorism attack, but a cyber terrorism attack on America. I'm not sure if you can pull up the Netflix one. Things like that.
Do you know what's it called?
It was on Netflix, and it was like a cyber terrorism attack on the United States, and
just keyword Obama. Did you say it was Obama?
Yeah, Obama had something to do with it. He might have been the producer or something.
Just pull that mic a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Sorry. So those things where it's more, they're the new types of potential things where if there was a large scale cyber attack or something that could be a bit scary. But
there's actually a movie we talked about in one of the podcasts, once again on Netflix. Where there was a cyber attack which basically started a war within America because nobody knew where the threat was coming from. And there's all these Tesla cars self-driving. That's the one you're talking about. Like you're talking about that movie.
Yeah. I forget what it was called.
Jeez.
Leave the world behind?
Leave the world, we talked about it in one of the previous podcasts. Because I said that was the scary thing about that fucking movie was that it is so close to home. Like, you think it's so far away, but it's so close to home. It's not fucking funny.
Yeah.
And the reason why we were talking about it was actually talking about it with my brother-in-law from New Zealand, because I was at home a year ago when a cyclone hit.
Yeah.
And we had no data, we had no cell phone, we had no power. And it was scary to understand how easily all those technologies that are afforded to us were taken away, and how fucking it was just a crazy, insane situation where there was nothing we could do. Like we had family that were a town away, but all the bridges were washed out. We didn't know how they were because we hadn't contacted them before the phones went out. And it's a scary reality. And a cyber attack creates that same fear and anxiety and situation. Yeah, it was Leave the World Behind, was it? Is that the title of it? That's the title. Who was one of the actors? It was, what was her name? Julia Roberts.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was insane. So if anybody hasn't seen it, watch it. It's a good watch, and it just makes you think. Yeah, just makes you think.
Most IT outages, though, are generally systems are becoming more and more complex. And there used to be traditional like 3-tier architecture where you'd have like a web server, an application server, and a database. And now these days they call that a monolith application. So that's like the old school way of doing things. And now what they do is they break that solution up into hundreds of little services that you can change, swap in, swap out, and update easily. And
so as far as hacking's concerned, because obviously with a cyber attack, it's about access to, let's say for instance, a power station. Yeah. Access to shut down a power station and for them to not power back up again. And you imagine a nuclear power station. So how are they what's the architecture on the systems, as you were saying?
So they're modernising a lot of services these days where there used to be on-premise data centres, and they're moving more of these items to the cloud. They're breaking up those monolithic applications, almost like you've got a chisel and you're smashing the application, breaking it up into smaller interchangeable parts. But what it does do is it does make it more complex. So when you've got thousands of little bits all needing to communicate to each other and talk to each other, it makes it easy to replace components. So big companies like Netflix and Amazon and all of them with their websites, they'll have a microservice that does one particular thing really well, and then instead of upgrading it, they'll just swap it out and put in a new service to replace it. So it enables that company to make changes more regularly with lower impact.
Because as you say, with the option with an upgrade is that you're taking something that's existing and shutting it down while you're upgrading it to make it better than what it was. Yeah. Whereas now you're saying pull that out and put a new... It's like Nintendo 64, put a new cassette in it. Yeah. Is what you're saying?
Yeah. So, but what it does do is it does increase the complexity of the system. It makes it more agile to make changes quickly and rapidly and at lower risk. But now you've got, instead of 2 or 3 components talking to each other, now you've got 100 components that all might talk to different things and have their own little data store to store information, and they might write events to an event broker, and the other service reads those events. And so what I was saying is a lot of the outages you'll get today, like if Telstra goes down or something goes down.
Okay, well, so tell me what happened.
It's not someone hacking, but it's just a bad, an upgrade that's gone wrong.
What happened with Optus? That's the most recent one, isn't it? Do you know what happened at Optus?
No, I don't. But I think they always tend to come back to it was a network upgrade or something that didn't quite work out. They upgraded a switch or a router or one of the networking components that everything attaches to.
Is it easy? Is it that easy to fuck up?
I don't do the network stuff myself, but yeah, some of that stuff isn't that easy to diagnose and support. There's a new term called monitoring and observability, and it's all around full stack observability, making sure that if there's an incident, you know where the issue is. So they baseline a system and say, this is the normal operational behavior. And when it sees something not go quite right, then it should trigger, hey, there's something that's, you might want to look at proactively before something bad happens. I don't know the particular Optus incident, but it's a challenge around observing all your end-to-end stack to make sure it's operating well. So they call that observability, and it's really about finding out often a lot of problems are known before you have them, but then there's these unknown unknowns, almost like, well, this is normal behavior, but something's not quite going right here. The CPU's jumped up, or this thing's gone up 3,000% of what normal behavior is. And
so is it like a plane crash where you've got a series of events that happen
sometimes. Yeah, it can be like that. Yeah,
to cause the plane to fall out of the sky.
We've had people they might do a UPS change, and then that has unintended consequences on other things, and sometimes it can be one thing after another, and it can be bad luck, and sometimes it can be good luck. You might not have an issue because of good luck as well. So yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you again. You've got a young family. Do you have any fear for your kids in this world that they're growing up in as a dad?
No, not really. I think
you got the standard fears, obviously, as a father.
I feel like it's never been a better time to live sometimes. I know, there's obviously the environment and global warming and all of those things that are, terrible. But we do have it generally pretty good. We talked about it before, like when I was younger, I probably didn't go on holidays because my parents probably couldn't afford it back then. So I feel like, there are some things that are better now. I feel like it's a good time to be a kid today. They did have to go through COVID though, and then miss out on some important years of their development at school and whatnot. But for the most part, it's pretty good being a kid these days. The only challenge I have is the whole iPad situation. So
you're not the only one.
They're just addicted to devices. It's like crack for them. So if you tell them they can't go on their iPad, it's the ultimate punishment. So the problem I see is with kids is it's going to be more about they're going to have some really weird neck and back issues because they're always leaning.
That's already started though. That's the thing. That's the scary thing about it. What do you limit your kids to screen wise time?
Mike, I don't really have a limit. But generally they're doing something every night of the week. So they're soccer training or whatever. So once soccer finishes, then it normally turns over to athletics, and they both do little athletics. But yeah,
it's just about balance, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And thankfully they both love their sports. So my daughter's always got something on, so she's doing this human powered vehicle stuff as well.
Cool.
Yeah. She's snow camp, and so they're all both pretty active. So I don't mind them being on it for a little while.
Yeah.
But it's hard because when COVID happened, and my daughter is in grade 6 now, that it's part of the schooling now to bring an iPad to school. It's like their desktop laptop. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it becomes a laptop. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
and then
So how do you go with screen time personally?
I'm not too bad. When I'm injured, I probably are on the devices and whatnot a little bit more. I try not to be on it too much, but it's hard because your school communicates to you that way. If, I need to be contacted, I need to be able to answer the phone. I need it to log into my work, even when I'm working from home, for multi-factor authentication, all that stuff. So you're always looking at it one way or another, but I try to not get over the top. When I'm injured, I try to steer clear of Strava and some of those things that record the statistics of running, because just going to depress me seeing everyone else running and I can't run because I'm injured. So
I don't blame you, mate.
Try not to be on it too much, especially when you're around with the kids. This age, they're only, that's like, hey, Dad, let's do this. They're only going to be asking to do that for a certain amount of time, and then they grow up and become their own people, sort of thing. Yeah. So you don't want to lose sight of that as well. Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's important. It's really important. So future-wise, you've got some events coming up that you're looking forward to. What are we doing past that? What sort of life goals have you got?
Yeah, it's a good question. I normally try not to think too far ahead, but I love to tackle, like I said, that New Zealand 100-mile one. I really want to make the most.
Have you been to NZ before? Question?
No, I haven't. First time.
I'm a Kiwi, eh?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
no.
right.
Yeah.
I've hidden my accent from you.
Oh, you've done well.
I have. It was funny because I've been here 20-something years, and people still pick me up on words like terrific or 15 or stuff like that. Yeah. But look, if you haven't been to NZ, I mean, even just for the race, it's God's country. It's amazing. Yeah. And the funny thing about it is it's only 3 hours away.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's insane. So that's on your bucket list. I mean, nobody likes to plan. To be quite honest, as I get older, I used to always fly by the seat of my pants. But now I always have something on the go. I always have something in the calendar, and it could be 1-2 years away. And it's motivation to get through the grind. You know, it's like, how's your day today? Well, my day was amazing because it's another day closer to what I want to achieve and what I want to do.
Yeah, and I feel like with me as well, like I feel like I want to capitalize on these years when I'm healthy and I'm fit, and you know, you don't want to be saving up all your money for your retirement or doing, you know, just.
I don't know if you've listened to many of our podcasts, but obviously Lewis's state of mind, that the ethos that we're trying to get across is that you're only here for a certain period of time. This is not a read through. It's not a rehearsal. Go out and live your life.
Exactly.
Go and do what you want to do. Enjoy the people that are around you. Experience things, as you say, while you can, because you've got a certain amount of years that you can do these physical, and then you've got to change scope. Like me having to stop running, I had to change scope on what I wanted to do and how I wanted to keep myself physically fit, mentally fit. And the more you move, the more you're active, you know, the better it's going to be in the long run. You know, so the reason why you're here today is because you fit the ethos of what we're trying to get across to our listeners, and we try to chip away at it every episode. It's like, you know, shit, just get out there and do it.
And I feel like, you know, you hear a lot about depression and things like that these days, but you don't feel like there's a huge amount of kids that are doing sport that have depression or anything like that. It's more, I feel like there's a lot of all those health benefits of getting out there, being active, help with that sort of thing. If you're active and you're doing things and you're running and that, you're really clearing your mind. It's really helping you live a healthy life, not only physically but mentally as well. And I think sport's really important. Even when I used to play tennis, I used to feel alive on the tennis court. And I used to say, I feel alive. Like, you got a little bit of nervous energy. You've got, you know, it just makes, it's like sometimes you're in the zone on the court. You know, similar, no matter what sport you do, running, tennis, whatever, just getting out there.
These are all healthy bodily reactions, you know, to the situation that you're in. Yeah. And as you say, I mean, there's no way that it's ever going to be detrimental for you to be outside exercising and feeling a little bit of excitement and anxiety and competitiveness, and you know, it's just a recipe for success. You know, and the good thing, as I said, the good thing about it, I'm noticing there's a lot of younger people getting, like my son at 15, getting into the gym, finding out about how the body works, how it reacts, about the cause and effect scenario. You know, train hard, get results. Feel good about yourself. Perform better on the sports field. You know, be a better contributor to a team. You know, be a better person. Be a better. You know, it's a win-win scenario for everybody involved, and it's a basic recipe for life. You know, as you say, with regards to depression and anxiety and stuff like that, it's all situational. You know, and it's created because something's not right. There's something not working, and a lot of people never get to figure that out, unfortunately. So I mean, you speak in our language, mate. And we also talked about coping with mental health while you're recovering from an injury. It doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're running or whatever. You know, it's about understanding the situation that you're in and then managing that, and then putting things into place to cope. And to get to the other end of it, you know, which is you're probably experiencing at the moment with the reason why you can't run. But you can see the future is bright, and you can see where you're going, and you've got a clear plan to get there. So the future is going to take care of itself. Mate, I really appreciate the time you spent with us today. I think we've covered a lot. I think it's great. I really wanted to touch on the AI and the stuff. That was fascinating. But as far as your running career, man, you're doing some fantastic things. I love seeing people achieve their goals. And I just wish all the best for you and your family for the future.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. It's been great having a chat.
Brilliant. That's a wrap, Mav. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in and for your time. You know the vibe, I'm steady living until I die. It's a loose state of mind, and we showed you that. Keep it authentic and real, I hope you coming back. Hey, make sure that you subscribe, cause we got it popping all the time, man, it's going down. If you wanna elevate, wanna live a better life, keep it locked here. You know it's a loose state of mind, let's go.